Are you dreaming of moving to Italy? Well, now's your chance. Join my annual Move to Italy Bootcamp happening September 10th, 11th, and 12th. This free 3-day live event is your ticket to planning the ultimate Italian adventure. Every day for just 1 hour, I'm going to guide you through everything that you need to know, from finding your perfect place to live to understanding visas and residency and a whole lot more. You can't make it live? Well, no worries because replays are available, but you must sign up to get access. So whether you're considering a full-time move or just part-time, this bootcamp has helped thousands of people make their Italian dreams a reality. But I only host it once a year, so don't miss out. Sign up at www.smartmoveitaly.com to reserve your spot now and start living your best life.
Sentire Media.
Well, hello there, and welcome back to A New Life in Italy, the podcast where we explore the ins and outs of making your Italian dream a reality. I'm your host, Samantha Wilson, and today I am going to let you in on a little secret, and that is the answer to a question that I hear all of the time, and that is, I want to move to Italy, but I don't know where to begin. What are the steps that I need to take? Now, this is a huge question, and understandably so. Moving to another country is a significant life decision, and the process can feel very overwhelming if you don't know where to start. But don't worry, because today I am going to break it all down for you. We'll be talking about the key decisions that you need to make before you pack your bags and head for La Dolce Vita. Now, these decisions will not only guide your planning, but they'll also set you up for a successful and smooth, well, as smooth as it can be, transition to life in Italy. Moving to Italy is really not for everyone, and taking the time to evaluate your own needs and your desires is very important. So grab a notebook or just sit back and listen as I walk you through the essential steps to get you started on your journey to Italy. I'm Samantha Wilson, Chief Dreammaker at smartmoveitaly.com, and this is A New Life in Italy, a show where each week I take you behind the scenes of what it's really like to move to Italy, introduce you to some fascinating people, answer your questions, and show you how starting a new life in Bel Paese is possible for you. Well, hello and welcome back. Now, every year I host a 3-day Move to Italy bootcamp. I started doing this bootcamp way back in 2020, actually the start of COVID, when we were all stuck inside and dreaming of travel and quite honestly just being free again and hoping that our friends and our families were, safe. And I thought at that time that it would be a very useful idea to share some of my experiences, some tips on how I made the move and made it easier for me and my family, and sort of the hard things that we faced, and to clarify a lot of the chatter that was swirling around online because, let's face it, we were all online back then and still kind of are, but back then it was pretty intense. And most of the things that I was seeing online was very misleading, and a lot of it was just not true. So the first boot camp was pretty simple, actually. It was just me and a webcam and really crappy lighting and my story and the problems that I faced and probably that you will face. And of course, I shared the solutions that I had been giving to my clients, what I had learned to get myself through the problems. And back then I would host this boot camp a few times a year. And every time people would log off and they would feel just a little bit more inspired, kind of curious, and definitely clearer on whether Italy was really right for them, or if it was just best left as a fantasy that they were having. You see, moving to Italy is not for everyone, and as much as I love and adore this country, and I wouldn't change any of it for me in my life, I have followed along countless people who have decided to take the leap and actually make the move themselves. So some are still here and thriving, and some have decided that part-time living here is just better for them, while others have actually decided that the Italian life is just not for them. And that's, perfectly okay. It isn't right for everyone. And what's really important to know is that what you see on Instagram from all of those influencers that are out there saying, I made the move and look at my great life now, there is a difference between what you're seeing on there and what you feel and what reality really is once you make the move. And this is why it's so critical and important that you take the time to really evaluate what you want out of your new life in Italy, not what somebody else is doing, but what you're doing. And take off those kind of rose-colored glasses and see Italy and your situation as it really is. And that's the purpose of my boot camp. It was back then, and it still is even now. And it's also the purpose of today's show. Now, there's some key decisions that you need to make as you evaluate the move, and I'm going to walk you through each of them today. The first decision that you need to make is understanding why you want to move to Italy. Now, this may seem obvious, it's Italy, of course, but getting clear on your motivation is really critical because it will shape every other decision that you make. Are you moving for a job, to retire maybe, or just to experience a different culture? Or maybe you're here to reconnect with your heritage. Many, many years ago, hundreds of years ago, Italians were fleeing Italy and going to other countries. And now, their children's children are now coming back here, flooding back here to have the lifestyle that they now want. Or maybe you are coming here to meet someone, or you've already met someone. Your motivations will be yours. And this is why it's important to understand your why, because your why is your rock. It is what will hold you in place when it gets a little bit turbulent here. And Italy is confusing, and there's not really one clear destination or one clear pathway to follow. It's always a little bit up in the air. But the only thing that is absolutely certain that you can count on is that it will be bumpy along the way. So if you have a solid why that can hold you into place, it will make it a lot easier. Now, your why will also influence your choice of location of where you're living, the type of visa, for example, that you're applying for, and the kind of lifestyle that you want to create when you're here in Italy. It's your why, and if your why is solid, the rest will fall into place. So ask yourself, truly, why do you want to move to Italy? Now, once you know your why and why you want to move, the next big decision is where in Italy you want to live. Italy is an incredibly diverse country with every region offering something just a little bit different in terms of culture and climate, cost of living, and lifestyle. Your personality type will fit better in some regions than others, and this is often a point of conflict if you're married or you're coming with someone else. What area you like or type of lifestyle you like may conflict with your partners. Now, one may like the excitement of, the chaos in the South, where every day is just kind of a little bit of a gong show, where the other might prefer something a little calmer, maybe a little more organized, more predictable, which is a lifestyle, let's say, in the north of Italy. Weather, of course, is also a factor. It gets really hot here in Italy, hotter these days actually than it used to be. In fact, this summer, we saw temperatures of over 40 Celsius in a lot of places, especially here in Florence. And then there was also like the high 30s, even up in the mountains. So it's definitely hot here. The world temperatures, of course, are climbing everywhere, and Italy is feeling it. So actually getting out of the heat in the summertime is really not a choice. You're going to be hot regardless of where you are. What you should think about is, where do you want to be in all the other months of Italy? Now, there are extreme opposites in the winters, for example, where snow and cold really are prevalent, and rain up in the north. I mean, maybe it's not as cold as it used to get up there, but if you are from a colder climate like me, you probably want to get as far away from that and from chains and snow tires as possible. In fact, I saw a study the other day that there were only 2 Canadian residents in the Aosta Valley. Only 2 Canadians, Canucks, were willing to go back to the snow. And this area, if you're wondering where I'm talking about, is up north. It's on the border between France and Italy. So it's around the Mont Blanc area. It's beautiful up there, but it's super cold in the wintertime. Aside from the weather, this is about your lifestyle as well. So think about it. Do you see yourself living in a very busy city like Rome or Milan, or even Florence? And Florence honestly isn't that busy if you're in the middle, in the centro where all of the tourist art is. But Florentines don't live in there. They live just around the outskirts, so it's really very peaceful. Or are you drawn to the really quiet and the tranquility of the countryside, maybe in Tuscany or Umbria? I mean, maybe the coastal life is a place that you desire. A lot of people do want to be close to the sea when they come to Italy, Liguria, or even an island like Sicily or Sardinia, for example. If you're interested in really like historic charm and smaller towns, there's a lot of places to choose from. Marche, even down south in Puglia, is incredibly beautiful. The decision where you live requires a lot of research, and please do not make the common mistake to think that Italy is just one place. We get this all the time. As a matter of fact, I saw a post the other day in our Facebook group. Somebody was asking for a good restaurant recommendation in Tuscany. Tuscany is a huge region. It's not just one small city. So consider that. Do some homework. Realize the size of Italy and of each area and location so that you can better really plan to find the best place to live. Italy is big. There's 67, I think, or 68 million people. And there's 20 different regions. Each is a little bit different from the rest. So take your time. Think about what's most important to you, how close you are to the airport, access to healthcare, availability of jobs, or maybe just the presence of an expat community is important. And visiting different regions, if possible, will really help. And it'll give you a better idea and a feel for what you might want to settle with or where you might want to settle down. Once you've decided on your location, it's time to tackle the legal side of things, and that will be your visa or, of course, your citizenship if that's what you need to get here. Italy offers a lot of different visa options depending on your situation. So think to yourself, are you planning to work? Do you need to work? Are you just going to retire? You study? Or perhaps you want to open a business or even an investor visa, which we're doing a ton of investor visas lately. And this is because it is, one of the most flexible visas that let you do anything really you want to do. But every one of these scenarios will require a different kind of a visa. And it's not easy to get a visa in Italy, let's face it. It's not an easy process, and it takes a lot of planning and a lot of effort to prepare and get the visa successfully. And don't underestimate the challenge of it. This is Italy, and like I said earlier, there's really no straightforward answer or road to take. Everything is discretionary, and everyone's pathway is different. And this is why what you see online is so conflicting and contradictory, and probably is what makes it so frustrating for you or makes it really difficult to understand what's best for you. Because what someone might have experienced could be vastly different from what someone else did. And it doesn't mean that one is right and the other is wrong. It just means that it's different, and you need to find your pathway. I know it doesn't help, our non-Italian way of thinking, but it is what it is. And if you plan to live here, you absolutely need to learn to go with the flow and just pivot at times. So research the requirements for the visas that fit you. Make sure that you understand the application process and, of course, the timelines. The Italian bureaucracy can be just dreadfully slow, so it's essential to start the process as early as you can. And, if you're thinking or wondering what visa is good for you, we do have this free little visa guidebook. It's on our website, and I'll make sure to put the link in the show notes for you. So now you know your why, where to live, and how you're going to get here. So the next step is deciding how much it's going to cost you and if you can afford it. It is true that living in the south is cheaper than living in the north. Property values are a lot higher in the north, rentals are a lot more, and general daily life is a lot more expensive. For example, to buy a 1,000 square foot apartment in Bolzano, for example, which is up in the Dolomites, up in the north, beautiful, by the way, it will cost you about 900,000 euros for a 1,000 square foot apartment in Bolzano. It's a lot. Where a 1,000 square foot house with some land in Puglia, for example, can cost you under 200,000. So this is a huge difference. But again, you need to always keep in mind of your why and what kind of lifestyle you're looking for, because this will make a big difference for you at the end of the day. It will also cost you money to actually make the move. Aside from the flights, there are a lot of little tiny costs that can add up quickly. So make sure that you do a realistic budget and plan for at least 20% contingency. You will almost always need help when you get here, and that will cost money unless, of course, you have friends here that can do it for free or just a bottle of wine and a meal as payment. This is always a really nice option for you. But if you don't have that, you really will need somebody to help you. So factor that into your budget. Also consider your income sources, whether it's salary, pension, or investments, and how far it will stretch in Italy. And don't forget to factor in currency exchange, which really can fluctuate and cause a big dent in some of your income, depending where you're from. So having a clear budget will help you make informed decisions and avoid any stress that comes with financial struggles here once you're in Italy. Now you need to take stock of your health. So this is the next step, number 5. Healthcare is a significant consideration when you're moving to Italy. And it's not because of bad healthcare in Italy. Actually, Italy has a really good healthcare system. If you haven't listened to my episode with Dr. Levingston, it's a very good one. So have a check on that as well. But as a foreigner, you'll need to understand how to access the healthcare system here. If you're employed, you will likely have access to the public system. It'll be part of your employment, part of the benefits. But if you're retiring or moving here without employment, you will need to purchase private health insurance, at least initially, until you can actually join the public system. And the public system here starts at $2,000 a year for non-Italians, and it can go up depending on what you earn. Now, I know this is a fraction of what you probably pay now, but there is this myth out there that the Italian healthcare system is free. It is not. It is only free for Italians and their families. If you are European or non-European, you will pay a yearly fee for it. Now let's talk about number 6, and that is integration. So what is your plan for integrating into your new life in Italy? Think about that. When you're moving to a new country, it isn't just about the logistics and the budgets. And Italy, I know, has a way of kind of luring you in and keeping you in this dreamy stage for a really long time. But eventually that Chianti-induced fog will dissipate and you will be staring at your new life really very clearly. And you're going to be required to integrate. And that means communicate with your new culture and your new community and just start living your regular life. One of the biggest drawbacks for many people when they're thinking about moving to Italy is, of course, the language barrier, and it's an honest and real concern. Until you live in a country that you do not speak the language, you will never really understand these 2 things. Number 1, how much communication you actually do without words. And number 2, how much you need to speak the language, how much you need to know those words eventually. So learning Italian, even at a basic level, will significantly enhance your experience and help you navigate daily life a lot more easily. And it's easy to stick with your English-speaking friends because it's safe and it's easy. And there's a lot of other things that are going on that are stressful. So I get it. I understand why you just want to hang out with your English-speaking friends and cling to that, English-speaking hotspots like the cities, for example. But let's face it, the older you get, the harder it is to learn. And for many people, mastering a new language is a lot more difficult than it seems. And many foreigners never really master it. But to stay here for a long time, you will need to at least continue to improve and try. And you can do this, of course, by joining clubs and attending events and getting to know your neighbors. I mean, these are all really good ways to not just build your new life here in Italy, but to also improve your language skills, which will eventually also improve your quality of life. Now, finally, it's important to think about your long-term plans here. I mean, the dream and the honeymoon will eventually wear off, I promise. And so you have to think of what will happen to you, or what is your plan if things don't go as expected. Now, while we all hope for the best, it's really wise to have an exit strategy, whether that means maintaining a financial safety net, keeping connections back home, or just simply a plan in case you need to return to your home country. Being prepared for all of those scenarios will definitely give you peace of mind. I'm a realist, and for those of you who I have had the pleasure of meeting, either through private consultation or even inside of our membership, you know that I really don't candy coat anything. Italy, look, it's not for everyone. And to know whether or not it's right for you, you just have to do the work. You have to do the research. You have to ask yourself the hard questions. And you have to have the drive and the passion and actually a little bit of courage to take the next step. And to do that, you need clarity. So ask yourself these questions. What is my why? Where's the best place for me to live that fits my lifestyle and my personality? And how much money do I need? And if it doesn't work out, what is my plan? I know it can feel overwhelming, but having the answers to these questions ahead of time will make the next steps a lot more manageable for you. And the likelihood of having a long and happy new life in Italy will be absolutely possible for you. Now, if I've got your move to Italy juices flowing with this episode, and if you're curious if it's actually right for you, this year's boot camp is happening next week on September 10th, 11th, and the 12th. Now, these days I only host it once a year, and it really has been the launchpad for thousands of people in the past. It is completely free, and I really encourage you to sign up. If you can't make it live, that's perfectly fine. You can also watch it in replay for a limited time after, but you have to sign up first to get the access. And also, this year we are giving away, by the way, 2 free memberships. So make sure that you join us so you can try to grab one of those. And you can grab your spot at smartmoveitaly.com/the Move to Italy Bootcamp. But don't worry, I'll put the link in the show notes. It's time for listener questions. Just like the old radio call-in shows, my team has picked 3 listener questions, all left on our voicemail. I have no idea what these questions are, but I haven't been stumped yet. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Hi, Samantha. This is Kono from New Jersey. I have a question regarding renting an apartment in Italy. I heard that in France, a landlord cannot kick you out if you bring a pet into the apartment. It's against the law. And I was hoping if Italy has the same kind of law where a landlord cannot kick you out if you bring a pet into the apartment.
Well, hello, Kono from New Jersey. Thank you for this question. It's a really good one. I will tell you about how hard it is for landlords or owners to get renters out. In Italy, the laws for the renter are very, very strong. As a matter of fact, this is why it's so hard for foreigners to rent in Italy. Owners are very nervous that if, let's say, you don't pay your rent or something goes wrong, that it will take them years to get you out if you have a residential contract. Now, whether or not you have a pet is the deciding factor, really doesn't matter here, because the laws here say that they can only kick you out, obviously, if you don't pay rent, but they have to take you to court for that. And the only way that a landlord can terminate your lease is if at the renewal phase, their family is going to move in, they're going to use it themselves, or they have major renovations that need to be done to the property. And of course, there's some penalties for them that they'll have to pay you or reimburse you or promise you to come back in under those circumstances. And also there may be other clauses in your lease that you have agreed to that if you breach, they can go to court and try to get you out. And maybe one of those clauses is, you want to keep your pet, or maybe you weren't allowed a pet and they want you out. So all of these things can obviously be disputed, but it does take a court case to do it in many cases, and which can take many, many, many years. So it's best to try to understand very clearly with the owner and the landlord what they expect of you and what you expect of them before you even enter into the agreement, so it's less stress for you in the long run. But your big question is, can a landlord kick you out if you have a pet? The pet is not the deciding factor here in Italy. Actually, it's the other reasons that I explained.
Hi, this is John. I am calling from the U.S. My wife and I are interested in residency in Italy. I am not a citizen. I am a U.S. citizen. My wife is a dual citizen. And I am curious about the process of applying for extended residency for both of us. I realize we both will have to apply, or I think I understand that we both have to apply, but we will have to apply differently. And curious what that process is like.
Hello, John, and thank you for the question. It's a good one. There's a lot of Italian, non-Italian partnerships out there that are coming here. And the good news is that you do not need a visa. So this is all great. However, the only way that you can stay in Italy longer than 90 days is that if your spouse, your Italian spouse, is already a resident in Italy. So you can both come together, and then your wife will have to first register for her residency at the Comune, in the local town hall at the Anagrafe office. And you'll need a house to do that. So you'll need either to have already purchased a home or rented a home with a contract. And you should do this in advance because you only have 90 days to get all this settled. And finding a rental, for example, in that time frame will be very hard. So make sure you have some place to live first, and then your wife will take her residency. And then after that has been established, then you will go to the post office and apply for your permesso di soggiorno. And this will allow you to stay with her and live in Italy. Now, if you're thinking, and some of you listening out there are thinking, well, I'm married to an Italian. Can we just, get residency and just stay a little bit longer without actually having to move our taxable residency to Italy? And the answer is no. The only way that a non-Italian, non-European spouse of a European or Italian can stay longer than 90 days is if that Italian counterpart is a resident, an official resident of Italy.
Hi, Samantha. This is Mary Rose. I live in America, and I do have family in Italy, but I'm not going to move close to them because they live in an area which doesn't feel comfortable for me. But my question is there a company or you have any suggestions of how I could tour around different areas in Italy to start getting a feel of the different towns? I really would appreciate learning what your knowledge has. Have a great day. Bye.
Hi, Mary Rose. Thank you for the question. Your idea to come here and do a little scouting trip to find out the best place to live is a great one. And a lot of people do that. Actually, a lot of people end up choosing where they want to live based on maybe countless vacations that they've spent in Italy. Maybe, it's just a place that's comfortable for them. And to be honest, quite often it's not the place where their family's from or where they know people. Sometimes it's, like I discussed in this episode, it depends on your personality and where you are. So again, Italy's a big old country. What I suggest that you do to find people to help you understand a region or an area is to first narrow down the area and probably to, a major city. Think of a major city that you think is perfect for you, and then draw a big circle around it and start with that point. And because even if you're in a smaller town that's close to that big city is really going to be your central base. This is where you're going to do most of your shopping, and this is where your real life is going to happen, even if you live close by in a small town. And then once you first find that city that you love, that you think is good for you, then find a tour guide that you can hire privately, that lives there, that understands the region, and that's prepared to take you around and give you a tour of the other little towns and really tell you what it's like to live in Italy. So you'll have to do this for all of the cities that you think are good for you. So it'll be a little bit of legwork. But what I really recommend you do is try to really narrow it down to at least maybe 2 places, maybe 3. Depends how much time that you have here. And when you're going through the list, it's easier to take things off than to put things on. So have a list of 5 or 6 places and then go, okay, what ones can I, are my least favorite, and put those aside until you end up with your top 3. And then find some tour guides in each of those cities that are prepared and willing to take you around. Most of them will be. It'll be just a day rate probably you'll pay. So it'll be really worth your while to have their expertise of living there and what you can expect. Well, that's all for this week's episode. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions about visas, citizenship, property, and really anything about moving to Italy that you would like me to answer in an upcoming episode, please feel free to send us a voicemail at our website at smartmoveitaly.com/podcast, or just click on the links in the show notes. Thanks again for listening, and remember, you can find all of the resources and the links to the people and the places that I mentioned in this episode inside the show notes. Ciao for now. New Life in Italy podcast is a production of Sentire Media, created and hosted by me, Samantha Wilson. Production by London Nero, and with special thanks to Ali Frothingham, Sofia Pisana, and the entire team at Sentire. Follow A New Life in Italy wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, if you're thinking of moving to Italy, whether full-time, part-time, or for a lifetime, come and see me over at smartmoveitaly.com and we'll help you get here and start living your best life. And don't forget, if you love this episode, please rate and leave a review. It's much appreciated. I can't wait to meet up with you again next week, same time, same place. Ciao for now.
Sentire Media.
Hey, podcast producers and show hosts. Do you want to join a podcast network that celebrates all things Italian? At Sentire Media, we understand the allure of Italy and its unique culture. Our devoted team of hosts and producers are all driven by their shared passion for Italy. And we work tirelessly to create the best lifestyle podcasts and content that will whisk you away to the very heart of Italy. With us, you can savor the mouth-watering flavors, get lost in the stories from the past, break down the cultural barriers, and truly immerse yourself in the vibrant traditions of this intoxicating country. If you have a great podcast idea or are already in production and would like to join Sentire Media, head over to sentiremedia.com. That's SENTIRE media.com and find out how to submit your show.